Thalassophobia, a type of phobia characterized by a persistent and intense fear of deep water, such as an ocean or lake. People with thalassophobia either avoid deep bodies of water altogether or endure them with an overwhelming anxiety. This is exactly how I felt upon opening up the life pod to see the never-ending sea of water that stretched beyond the horizon, or in this game, the draw distance, within planet 4546b. I never even realized that I had this fear before playing this game. This is Subnautica, and although the graphics and environments are downright beautiful and distinct from one another, I was completely and utterly terrified during my first playthrough of this game, mainly due to the fear of the unknown, as well as being submerged into the depths of the sea, and many people seem to agree. This game perfectly entices you into exploration, taking advantage of your curiosity to see what happens the deeper you go and the further you explore. As someone who finds the depths of the sea and the unknown mysteries that it holds a terrifying concept, this was an absolute nightmare in the best way possible. So stay hydrated as we dive straight into the story of the game before getting into its underlying horror. So the story is rather simple, but I seriously recommend you to experience the game for yourself. If not, just skip to this time frame. So I'm going to give a more watered down version of it. So the protagonist is known as Riley, a worker at a corporation known as Alterra, a company that specializes in finding new planets and exploring them for their natural resources through flying a ship known as the Aurora. This ship is suddenly hit and crash lands into planet 4546b. During the crash, many of the crewmates hop into life pods in an attempt to save themselves. However, it seems that you're the only survivor, as all of the life pods that you explore are broken open and the survivors were presumably consumed by the creatures who inhabit this world. There is a shed of hope as a rescue unit known as the Sunbeam is here to save the day. Yes, finally we can get off this planet. Damn. Throughout the game, you will see these strange artificial structures which piece the story together. Essentially, the entire planet is infected with a disease that wiped out the previous race of inhabitants known as the Precursors. They were responsible for creating that massive gun that shot down the Aurora and the Sunbeam. They were the ones who actually created the Warpers, these disgusting and annoying motherfuckers. You also get to find abandoned bases and find out the origin of their stories, how these survivors managed to live on a planet a decade prior. Unfortunately, they succumb to the virus, and one of them ventures off. You actually find her in Below Zero. The Precursors had found out that the cure for this disease was the Sea Emperor, which is a constant presence that is slowly luring you into her domain through the use of telepathy. Once you find her, you hatch her eggs, cure the virus because of her offsprings, and turn off the gun. It is from here that you build a rocket ship and escape the planet. Yeah, my description of this is extremely bare bones, but we're not going to talk about the story of Subnautica. Instead, we're going to dive into its horror.
Detecting multiple Leviathan class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?
Although the main story of the game is interesting, I think the main appeal of Subnautica is the subtle horror that it carries. The fact that it's an entire game where 90% of the time you're beneath the surface of the water is already such a scary thought, and the deeper you go, the darker the blue becomes, until there's just no light source to be found other than the bioluminescence of the organisms deep in the depths. I would move forward at such a slow pace, being immediately caught off guard by the sound of a new creature. The game perfectly puts me on edge with the way it utilizes real-world tropes of the terrors of the ocean and simulates an amazingly immersive experience. Just seeing the silhouette of these creatures and hearing the loud noises is such good horror. The fear of the unknown lies on just what these creatures look like and whether they're hostile or not. And that's where Subnautica's praise comes from, the iconic, scary creatures, as well as the downright impressive environmental horror. Although some biomes look friendly, there are certainly ones that deliver an uneasy feeling, as if you're never supposed to be here, and the music does an excellent job of ensuring that you stay on your toes. I also wanted to emphasize the fact that Subnautica is not a horror game. Unknown Worlds did an absolutely phenomenal job at creating these sea creatures, making their movement and hostility completely believable. Every Leviathan scared me upon my first encounter with them, even the reefback. I was for sure that every single creature in this game was just out for my flesh. The sound design in this game is incredible. In certain biomes where it's nighttime, it's extremely difficult to just see anything. You pretty much rely on the headlights of your vehicle whilst these huge leviathans emit their sounds, but you can't see them at all, just a fog from the depths. That feeling of suspense is incredibly thrilling for a video game to achieve. You don't know what's out there, and it most likely sees you as fresh food. And this is exactly how I experienced my first encounter with the Reaper Leviathan. I could certainly make out a silhouette of the beast, but before I could react, it was too late. The design of the Reaper alone is incredible. The way it's programmed to move realistically to a sea creature in comparison makes it so believable. To be honest, all of the creatures lean into the Eldritch style of horror, and at times it feels almost Lovecraftian. The description of the Reaper is also horrifying. If you're brave enough to scan the beast, you'll get an interesting synopsis on how the Reaper hunts its prey. The deep roar emitted by the Reaper at regular intervals is effectively sonar. If you can hear it, the Reaper can see you. Another creature that scared me during my playthrough was the Ghost Leviathan. This massive creature that radiates bioluminescence. I was just casually farming materials and exploring the deep Grand Reef before I suddenly heard shrieks. I look up and it was right there, traversing above me. It was safe to say that I didn't go near that location again. The crab squid also has an amazing design. Its arachnid type of body definitely trespasses into the uncanny valley of looking like a spider, once again traversing into the player's irrational fear. The crash site constantly being in view no matter how far you are at times on the planet is yet another grim reminder that you're all alone. Even if you're having fun within the planet, it is always there to serve its purpose to let you know that you've crash landed upon this planet and nobody is here to save you. It kind of reminds me of the Citadel from Half-Life 2, a looming presence that's always in your sight to remind you of your dreadful fate. Now let's talk about the infamous crater edge. I absolutely love the description the PDA gives to you the moment you enter this biome.
Warning, entering ecological dead zone. Adding report to data packet.
Even in the game's wiki, it's left ambiguous, with the points of interest being only death. Yet with the curiosity that we humans possess, we always want to keep venturing, pushing further and further to discover what's really here. With a planet that possesses such large, dangerous life forms, what makes them steer clear away from this zone in particular? Well, as they say, there's always a bigger fish. This is honestly a creative way of letting the player understand that they're out of bounds. To me, Subnautica is a gem in the survival game genre, a completely different feeling. The best part? It isn't even marked as a horror game as well. Instead, a harmless survival game. The horror element is subjective, as many people don't particularly find the game scary at all, yet others are downright terrified of even touching the game. The feeling of isolation, dread and mystery that surrounds a planet full of rich history and deadly creatures certainly had me on edge when going deeper and deeper into the depths. The game does an amazing job at making you feel completely defenseless against these massive titans of the sea, with your best course of action being to just avoid them as quick as possible without them chasing your tail. Unless you've played Doom Eternal like me and decided to execute every single Reaper on the planet. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you haven't played Subnautica, definitely check it out. It's a fantastic game. I personally played Subnautica during the pandemic. Bloody hell, that feels like a decade ago now. And immediately fell in love with the visuals and presentation of the game. And we've reached 500 subs. Thank you all so much. I'll see you guys in the next one.